So, are you ready?
Yes.
You can count me down.
5, 4.
Oh shit! Hold on, beer. The beer's coming up.
Oh, what a good girl.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. I think I'm ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome to church. My name is Luke, and I'm your atheist pastor. Thank you so much for listening today. This is the show reminding you that you are not alone while you're trying to walk this life as an atheist. We're here with producer Tammy.
Hi.
It's been a really good week. It's been busy. It has been really busy, but it's been good. Things are going well. This week, amazing show coming up. So we got Heathens, Heretics, and High Praise. We're going to talk about the Boy Scouts. We're going to talk about a California bill claiming that gay conversion therapy is a fraud. We're going to talk about Vatican-backed family rallies welcoming LGBTQ people, Southern Baptist resolutions, all kinds of great stuff. Our featured atheist is Annalisa, so really can't wait to bring her on because her story is just phenomenal, and the conversation we had was just amazing. But before we get into all that, we asked a very important question on Instagram this week. And that question was, is there anything that you actually miss about your life as a religious person? So it was fun because I got all the I took all the comments and I copied and pasted, and then I was able to like kind of group them together. So what do you think? There was one answer out of like 100 and some odd comments. There was one answer that like was most popular over everything. Is there anything you actually miss about your life as a religious person? Can you guess what that one answer was?
Yeah.
What was the answer?
The community.
No. The number one answer to is there anything that you actually miss about your life as a religious person was no. Or a different...
That would have been my answer.
It was your answer.
Did I reply?
Yeah, you did. You said, I think you said...
guys, it's been a busy week.
I think you said something like... I think you said something like, you grew up in kind of nominally religious, so you don't really miss anything from it because Catholic Church didn't have anything that was really important to you. But the number one answer of half of all the answers was some derivation of no. So no, hell no, fuck no, Jesus Christ, no, absolutely not. All kinds of no's was the number one answer. But the number two answer was exactly what you just said. It was community. Mm-hmm. So out of the probably 40 or so answers that kind of lived on after I took out all the no's and all my responses and everything, the number one answer to is there anything that you miss about your former religious life is community. The people people feel lonely in their atheism. They feel like they're not. They feel like they're missing something, which I hate it because that gives I agree. That's probably the number one thing I miss, but I also hate that because it kind of makes Christians right.
How so?
Because they say you need the church, because the church is a great community, and so it almost makes them right in a sense. But the answers were great. So here were a few of the answers. I miss the sense of community and the rituals. I'm trying to get better at not missing that, as though it's bad to miss it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting that someone said that because there is this almost this guilt for people who miss it. It's like when I got divorced, because I'm the one that left, it was almost shameful for me to be sad. Right. I had to pretend a lot of times that I was always okay, that I always was, there was nothing wrong, that I always felt everything's fine, everything's okay. I had to kind of almost masquerade that I was 100% okay all the time. I don't know if you experienced that too at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt totally guilty all the time. I couldn't have any emotions about it because I was the one who made the decision.
Right, and it's almost like you could never say, it wasn't necessarily that I regretted leaving, but I could never say I was sad about it. I could never mourn the loss of it or something. I always had to be firm in my resolution that I am not, that I wasn't, that I'm fine. Someone else said the general ambiance of the candlelight Christmas Eve services, the holidays have not really felt that special. Even when I tried to build new traditions around secular things, I guess I'm somewhat of an outlier in a lot of atheist circles because while I was raised going to church around 3 times a week, I had mostly positive experiences with religion. It just stopped making sense when I gave it a harder look.
Wow, 3 times a week?
Yeah, and I can
What
kind of...
religion is that?
Most evangelical churches, you go on
Really?
Wednesdays. Sometimes you go on Wednesday, then you go Sunday morning service, then like youth group.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. I
Yeah.
had trouble. My dad had trouble dragging me out of bed at 7
But
o'clock
you
every
had to go
Sunday.
to Catholic Mass, which is totally different than like an evangelical
So
service.
boring.
It's not the same as like seeing your friends and hanging out and like having that sense of like family almost. It's different.
Now I want to go to evangelical church just to see what it's like.
Well, you're going to hate it though because it's all about Jesus. You have to buy into Jesus
yeah,
for
but
the
I
community.
have to see what it's like so I could know why people miss it.
Well, yeah, but you'd actually have to
Plus
like
there's food, right? You said there's food.
some places there's food. But I don't think you'd be able to feel as involved because you don't believe it. Like you almost have to believe in the system to connect with the system. But we could go. You want to go to church?
Sure, let's
We
go.
should go to church one Sunday morning. There's tons of them in Redlands.
You just want to see if we catch on fire?
I know we won't catch on fire. I want to see like how many people like talk to us because
We
like,
should go to church with your mom.
yeah, I don't want to do that.
No.
I don't, because that's my home church, and
I
a lot of
know.
those people know about this show.
Oh, they do?
Well, most of them know I'm an atheist. I'm friends with most of them on Facebook, so they know that I'm an atheist because they saw my atheist post.
Are you afraid they're going to burn you at the stake?
I'm not afraid they're going to burn me at the stake. I'm afraid I'm going to have to answer a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
So somebody else said, miss the rituals. That was another thing. I missed the rituals that made the mundane things seem holy or special. Someone else said, I miss a few things like the sense of community. If you do what they want, you have a place where you feel like you belong. It's nice. Also, having a clear-cut sense of purpose feels good. And then this could actually be lumped into the last one, the kind of the big three. One lady said the community feeling would be the only thing I miss, but she thinks we are doing a great job at creating an atheist community. So thank you very much for that. I miss the community, but not much else. Sometimes I miss my family. Even if they're all fake as fuck, I still care. Not much I miss, but the sense of community. So community was this big thing that kind of, that was the most popular answer. The second most popular answer was family and friends. People miss the connection to the extended family because a lot of their family is still Christian, so they feel kind of ostracized. So one person said that they miss not being the target at the family reunions because ever since the family found out that they were an atheist, the family now wants to engage in this person in all kinds of discussion, which would probably happen to me if I was home more. Because I'm only home once a year, it's different because everybody just wants to catch up. But if I was home more often, I'd probably get a lot of those questions too about how could you believe this and how could you leave your faith and are you just a terrible liberal in California and godless and whatever. But the third most popular answer was one that it was something that I've talked about a couple times, and I didn't expect it to be so popular. Can you guess what the last one was?
I think I do know what, because I read them all. Am I allowed to say?
Yeah. What do you think it was?
I think it is?
Yeah, what do you think it is?
I think it was that people miss things being so easy because you didn't have to think about
Way
it.
to go, babe.
I was noticing a trend.
Nice
that
job.
was almost my first answer when you asked.
Yeah. So the sense of community was almost mentioned in tandem to it being easy, but some people mentioned it kind of as a separate thing. So one person said it helped you get through the funeral of a loved one. Mm-hmm. So that sense of loss wasn't as intense in the church because you felt like you were going to see your loved one again. Sometimes I miss the ignorance of it all, just being able to gloss over some pretty heavy shit by telling myself that God was in control. I miss the hope that I will see my deceased loved ones again. I miss being blissfully ignorant. I miss the easy answers, although they never stood up to scrutiny, the bliss of ignorance, of trusting in God's plan. But no matter what, I would rather be as I am now, an atheist heathen, than go back to being a believer filled with doubt and constantly trying to reconcile. Someone else said, I miss feeling like I was under someone's protection. Like there was this amazing thing. I remember when I was really deep into the religious system that I wasn't as nervous getting on airplanes because I felt like, well, God has a plan for me, and he's not going to let me die in an airplane crash until my plan comes to fruition or something like that. When I was going through the police academy, I wasn't a believer, and I remember post-police academy thinking, God got me through so much shit when I was going through my basic training in the Navy. Like, I was just like, I believe, no, God wants me here. God wants me to be here, so I'm going to be fine. I'm going to survive this. And then in the police academy, it was just me. Like, I had to rely on my memory, my stuff. And even now, I'm listening to an audiobook that talks about like building a business. And he even talks about like, he's a Christian, but I respect him as a businessman. And, you know, he even said like, talked about like focused intensity over time is what gets you to be successful, but then also, you know, multiply that by God. That was his success formula. Multiplied by God equals success. And I was like, man, because it's this thing of, if you believe that God calls you to something, you can face adversity because you believe there's like a higher purpose to what you're doing. But if you're just an atheist and you think that it's just you, whenever you face trials, like, you have to find that resolve like inside yourself to keep going. It's different.
It goes back to what we were talking about, I think, on last week's episode about letting God take all the credit for how awesome you are.
Right, and that was, and we're going to get into, we'll get to some of the probably next week we'll talk about one of the other questions we asked, you know, what belief from your former faith makes you cringe so much? That was something that came up a lot. But there is that sense, too, of, yeah, when you're in the faith, God is always gets the credit, but you always take the blame. And I think that's you know, problematic. So that was great. I loved that. I love that interaction. If you're not following us on Instagram, by the way, you should, at Your Atheist Pastor. We do most of our interaction with you on that because I hate Twitter, so I just use Twitter to screenshot things to then post onto Instagram because Twitter people suck.
We have 3,000 followers.
We are over 3,000 now.
3,000.
And because this happened during our Instagram Live. So some of you were watching our Instagram Live, and there was a moment during our Instagram Live last week when I was a little bit perplexed and kind of paused and had a moment because while we were doing our Instagram Live, I got a notification that we had a $50 contribution to our Patreon.
Wow.
Which now means that the show can virtually pay for itself. Now, what the problem, I shouldn't say it's a problem, you know, we're at $158 now per month, which to someone like Sam Harris is peanuts. But
Right.
to us,
That's a lot.
it's crazy. Crazy. I love it. I love it. I never, in my wild, so I remember when we first started the Patreon page, I looked at Tammy and I said, babe, if someone gives $5 to this,
Yeah.
I'll be amazed.
Yeah.
And someone did. You know, Jen. Yay, Jen. She's our first Patreon subscriber was Jen, and she's one of our more active Instagram followers. And we love her. We love everybody. We love all of you. So I was just shocked that, you know, someone was willing to give $5 to this thing. And because I don't know about you, but have you ever been in a situation where like you feel like you have something to say? And you know you have something to say, but then you're really nervous to say it because you're like, well, what if I really don't have something to say? And then all of a sudden it's like, fuck. It's like Starbucks selling beer. You know, it's like and so when I first started this, I was like I remember the first time I ever released a show, I had like 80 listens on the first episode. The first time I released it. And I was like, how the hell did 80 people even find this shit? and then now, so I mean, and now we're like averaging 3,000 downloads a month. Not 3,000 an episode, but 3,000 a month. And that's amazing.
You know what else is really funny to me? Like, to some people, you're kind of like a celebrity.
I don't understand that at all.
I know.
I'm blown away. But I guess, okay, so I don't want to sound inflated and a big head or anything like that. So forgive me if I sound a little bit conceited with the following statement.
Normally, you have no problem being conceited.
I know, but I'm working on my humility so I can be proud of it. So I remember, I think I've mentioned this on the show before. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I know I've mentioned it to you. when I was going through my 500-hour teacher training, I have a yoga teacher who and a guy who was an author that I really, really respect. His name is Mark Stevens. And like he wrote the book Teaching Yoga. So many yoga programs use his books, and he's very well known in many yoga circles. So when I found out he was in Santa Cruz, I was like, I want to go take my teacher training from Mark Stevens, because Mark gets it. Like, he's an amazing writer. He's intelligent. He's not woo, he's reasonable. And so I remember I called because they had a number, and I called and left a message. And then the phone rang, and I was expecting like, hi, my name's Jennifer. I'm calling from Mark Stevens' office. I just wanted to answer some questions, if there's anything you had. And that's not a sexist remark. It's that 9 times out of 10, a practitioner of yoga is a woman. So most people who work in yoga are women. So it was very likely that a woman named Jennifer or Susie or, Ferndale or something like that would be some kind of weird yoga name. A lot of people change their name to weird yoga shit, which is the whole nother. We'll do. I'm sorry, but I can't about yoga one of these days.
Oh, I like that
idea.
Yeah,
yeah, we'll do that someday. So I answered the phone, and he was like, hi, is this Luke? And I was like, yes. He goes, hi, this is Mark Stevens. And I'm in the laundromat doing my laundry, and I swooned a little bit. Like, I had this moment of like, oh my God, I'm talking to a yoga celebrity. Like, Mark Stevens is on the phone talking to me. And like, Mark would not say that he's a celebrity. I'm definitely not a celebrity. But one of the things I appreciated about that interaction was that he's the one that called.
Yeah.
And when I started the show, and when you email me, when you call me, when you subscribe to Patreon, you get a little special gift after you subscribe to Patreon. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll just have to know what it is. You'll find out what it is as soon as you complete your donation. So I wanted to make sure that when people reached out to me, they got an answer. And I try to answer in a fairly reasonable amount of time within the day. One of these days, maybe I'll have to say, like, I'll answer within 24 hours. But one of the things that annoys the shit out of me is when I email somebody and it says, due to the high volume of emails that we receive, some answers, some questions, some emails might go unanswered or whatever. I remember listening to a thing from Tony Robbins. He was being interviewed. It was on his birthday, and he said, oh, yeah, my birthday just passed, and I'll get to it in the next few days. I go through and I respond to everybody that wished me happy birthday on social media. And I'm like, Tony Robbins goes through and talks to people. If Tony Robbins can respond to everybody, I can respond to everybody. And so I try to do that as best I can, because the most important thing for me, I was listening to something today about, they were talking about, because I'm always trying to learn how to grow this thing. And they were talking about how, you need to get to 20,000 listens as fast as possible so you can reach out to advertisers. I'm like, I kind of don't want to reach out to advertisers. Like, I want our show to be our show, and I want the community to support it. If the community likes it, and if the community doesn't like it and doesn't want to support it, then I'll support it. Mm-hmm. Because I just don't like the idea of, let me get as many listens as I can so we can reach out to Walmart to advertise on our, that's just stupid. So anyway, that was our tangent that we just got off on. We'll be right back with Heathens, Heretics, and High Praise.
Hi, this is producer Tammy. If this show has had an impact on your life, please consider supporting it financially. You can go to youratheistpastor.org or visit our Patreon page at patreon.com. Search for Your Atheist Pastor. You'll have access to past audio from our live Q&As, our monthly Patreon-only show, and even an invite to our super secret Skype calls. You'll also have access to our eternal gratitude, and who doesn't want that? Thank you for your support.
You must order the personal package, and you got to order it right now!
I refuse to be mediocre because people around me are mediocre.
Males have a tendency to wander a little bit. And what you want to do is to make a home so wonderful that he doesn't want to wander.
I have great relationship with God.
God is healing you. Who called by a shot on the level?
Some of my enemies, I feel like I need to write them a check.
He cheated on you. Well, he's a man. You might get AIDS in Kenya. The people have AIDS. You got to be careful. I mean, the towels can have AIDS.
Get ready for supernatural miracles.
Most importantly, I brought my Bible.
It's time for Heretics, Heathens, and High Praise. It's when we take a look around the religious world to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Where should we start? Let's start with the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts of America. I was a Boy Scout.
America.
Do you know I was a Boy Scout?
Yeah.
On my honor. I can't remember what the Scouts, it was. I can't remember what it was.
the Girl
It
Scout
was,
one either.
were you a Girl Scout?
Yeah.
Oh, you're probably the cutest little Girl Scout in the world.
I loved Girl Scouts.
I'll bet you did.
I loved Girl Scout cookies, still do. I loved making crafts and going on field trips. Girl Scouts was awesome.
So the Boy Scouts of America, over the past several years, they've slowly been kind of opening themselves up to things. Like they opened themselves up to gay troops. They opened themselves up to gay leaders. They opened themselves up to trans boys. And most recently, they opened the Boy Scouts up to girls.
Oh, okay.
Even changing the name to Scouts. BSA. BSA stands for Boy Scouts of America, but I guess they just put Scouts BSA. But there's one area that they still haven't opened up yet. Can you guess what area that is? The Atheists. They refuse to allow open atheists into their group in any capacity whatsoever. They point to the Scout Oath, which includes the phrase, "I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country." So God is mentioned. That's right. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to help other people, and to obey the law of the pack, I think is what the Boy Scout Oath is. And then the Scout Law, which includes the goal of being reverent to God. So they point to those things as justification for telling atheists to go fuck themselves. A couple of weeks ago, they doubled down on their pledge to keep atheists away because so the National Board adopted a resolution effectively blocking open atheists from joining, and it reads something like this. The Boy Scouts of America National Executive Board resolution reaffirming duty to God, whereas the foundational value, blah, 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 blah. I hate the whereas and all this crap. The recognition of God as the ruling and leading power in the universe, and the grateful acknowledge of His favors, God as a man, and blessings are necessary to the best type of citizenship. The grateful acknowledgement of God's favors and blessings are necessary to the best type of citizenship. So atheists always a step below. No matter what the religious faith of the members may be, a religious faith is fundamental to good citizenship and should be kept before them. So it doesn't matter what God you believe in, it matters that you believe in God. How stupid is that?
So
How
stupid.
absolutely
And
asinine
so
is that
unfair,
bullshit?
too, because you're basically punishing kids who have really no choice in how they're raised.
No, but they can...
Like a little atheist kid that, not being raised religious, really wants to be part of the Boy Scouts. They're going to tell them no because your family is atheist?
Right. And so then it says these faith-based tenets have been part of the Boy Scouts of America since it was founded. So now we're going back to what it was founded on. It was originally founded just for boys. It was originally founded just for straight boys. So how can we cite it tradition when we've changed all that tradition, but then still cite tradition to the exclusion of atheism? They go on to say that the Boy Scouts of America reaffirms its unequivocal commitment to the declaration of religious principles as the fundamental component of the mission of the Boy Scouts of America. In case you were wondering, what is the mission of the Boy Scouts of America? The mission of the Boy Scouts of America is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout Oath and Law. Because God is in the Scout Oath and Law, you have to believe in God in order to be a Boy Scout. That is just the biggest load of bullshit I think I've ever heard, and I hate it. I absolutely hate it. BSA, you suck. In California, yes, here we are, California, Groups are fighting a bill to declare gay conversion therapy a fraud. So here in California, an effort to call gay conversion therapy a fraudulent business practices is gaining ground in the California State Senate despite opposition from hundreds who rallied to fight the proposal on religious grounds. Hundreds. Okay, not thousands, not millions. Hundreds have come out in droves, hundreds of droves, to fight gay conversion therapy. The Judiciary Committee passed the proposal, which means it's a step closer to being considered by the entire Senate. Senator Bill Monning said he heard from some of the people who said they opposed legislation because they believed it would restrict the reading or sale of the Bible. So their claim is that because if gay conversion therapy is a fraud and gay conversion therapy is based on the Bible, then they will be able to declare the Bible fraudulent. Which I think would be fantastic. But here's the thing. That's a First Amendment principle. Like, you would not be able to restrict the sale of a religious text. You can't do that. You can't restrict the sale of the Quran, or else the crazy-ass Republicans would have already done that. So I mean, I don't know what the big fear here is. Republican Senator Joel Anderson of Alpine said the legislation would limit people's choices in seeking therapy. More than 350 people rallied at the state capitol to oppose the proposal. Now, to be fair, our democracy is built to allegedly help the minority. So here's an interesting man. This man is named a guy named Jim Doman. Said, I did not want to be gay. A pastor, he's a pastor, and said the therapy helped him marry his wife and have children. He said, please do not take away professional help programs that have helped people like me. I met Jim Doman. Jim Doman actually spoke in one of my classes in seminary. Really? I actually know I know his wife. Like, we don't talk anymore, but when I was in seminary at Azusa Pacific, I knew his wife. She worked in one of the buildings that I worked at, and then he and his wife came and spoke in one of my classes and talked about how he was gay and now he's not, and they happen to be expecting their first child. The bill aims to ban selling or advertising sexual orientation change therapy. Supporters of the bill say that such therapy is ineffective or harmful. Senator Scott Wiener, giggle, Wiener, conversion therapy is psychological torture. Scott Wiener is also gay. Last name's Wiener. I think it's funny. There are people who want to erase people like me, Wiener went on to say. It is shocking in some ways that in 2018 this is still happening. Opponents gathered for a rally outside the Capitol. Several shared stories about how therapy helped them stop living as LGBT people. The problem with this, and this, when we get into this discussion, what the whole issue, and we've talked about this probably, at length before. Conservative Christians see this as a black and white issue. Either you're gay or straight. And if you're gay, it's bad and you should be straight, which is good. But sexuality is a continuum. Like, I can appreciate an incredibly attractive man, but I don't get turned on by an attractive man. But there are other men out there who are not attracted, like don't find men attractive at all because they think that's gay. So they think it's bad. And if we sit here and we're like, okay, well, you're gay, so we need to pray all the gay out, so you're only attracted to women, like it ignores the continuum that sexuality is in our culture and in like human life itself.
This is just bonkers to me because this is not something that you can fix with therapy. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
And so the question would be like, what would Jim think? I wonder what Jim Doman would say. Because, okay, he was healed. He was fixed or whatever, whatever in the hell that was.
No, he wasn't.
But he was able to be attracted to a woman and have babies with her, which goes back to what I was saying about the continuum. Maybe Jim is bi. Maybe he's attracted to men and women. Maybe he's like Callie Torres from Grey's Anatomy, attracted to men and women. It's possible to be attracted to multiple genders and multiple forms of said gender.
It's also
that's reasonable
to form a really strong connection with someone, even if you aren't 100% attracted to them. Like, it could be she could be his very best friend in the whole world, and they have that affectionate sort of relationship that's
Right, but
able
there is
to turn
some
into
there is
something,
some element of like sexual arousal for that, unless she was like artificially inseminated, which I don't think she was, or in vitro. Sorry, artificial insemination is what you do to cows. In vitro fertilization is what you do to humans.
I knew what you meant.
So,
Turkey baster.
The Vatican City, an international family rally of the Catholic Church, is hosting is in Ireland, which will feature workshops on hot-button issues facing Catholic families, including protecting children from clergy's sexual abuse, weathering divorce, and ministering to the lesbian and gay faithful. Pope Francis will join on Pope Francis will join the World Meeting of Families for the last 2 days and preside over the final Mass. Organizers unveiled the pastoral program leading up to Francis' arrival that includes a surprising entry. Reverend James Martin, an American Jesuit, is scheduled to deliver a presentation on welcoming, not tolerating, welcoming LGBT Catholics and their families into the parishes. Now, if you're welcoming families, the implication is that you're welcoming 2 gay men or 2 gay women.
Right.
Martin is the author of a book called Building a Bridge about Catholic outreach to the LGBT community. He has had several talks canceled in the United States in recent months because of pressure from conservative groups. Surprise, surprise. Martin told the AP that it was immensely significant that a Vatican-backed meeting would include his presentation, saying it shows that LGBT Catholics and their parents are an important part of the church. The message from the Vatican to LGBT Catholics is this: you belong. That's a huge step.
Huge.
It's a huge step, not only for a priest to go on record saying that, but for the Pope to back that.
Yeah.
Like Francis is going to be at this thing. It's not like this is some independent Catholic thing that is just, that is just there. Like the Pope is actually like behind that. I think that's fascinating. That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's Martin's talk is not the only meeting event, indicating that organizers were keen to follow Francis's lead and reach out to some of the most marginalized Catholics. Other workshops are on Catholics suffering from addiction, domestic violence, coping with family members in prison, and homelessness. Other areas to be discussed are going to be how to find time to pray in a digital age, which is interesting, and women in leadership.
That's awesome.
So I think, like, way to go, Catholic Church. Like, okay, granted, the Catholic Church is fucked up.
Catholic
big
Church
time.
has been in the dark ages for a
like,
long time.
But okay, all right. There are roughly 2 billion Christians in the world. Half of those are Catholics. So half of the Christian world's leadership is like the leader of the largest sect of Christians in the world is now starting to affirm the humanity of LGBT people. That's a big step. It's late, but it's there. And I think like they deserve some high praise for that. And then I couldn't let Heathens, Heretics, and High Praise go without talking about the Southern Baptist Convention that happened this week. So the Southern Baptists, if you're not familiar with Southern Baptists, you want to talk about the Dark Ages. These motherfuckers are like way in the Dark Ages.
Worse than the Catholics?
Oh yeah. So let's talk about. So they passed 16 resolutions, and I want to talk about a few resolutions. Here's one of the resolutions that they did. They passed a resolution talking about the dignity and worth of women on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of women as messengers to the Southern Baptist Convention. So here's the resolutions. They resolved that the messengers of the Southern Baptist Convention will honor the immeasurable contribution to women to our cooperative mission of the Great Commission. So they're resolving in 2018 to honor the immeasurable contribution of women. They're resolving to thank God that women, for the women who have contributed in biblically appropriate ways through discipleship, missions, education, evangelism, service, leadership. This is my favorite part. We affirm the gifts of women in their distinctive God-assigned roles, even as we continue to witness to Scripture's teaching in a culture increasingly confused in matters of sexuality and be it further. So we've resolved that women can function in their distinctive God-assigned roles, whatever those happen to be.
Barefoot pregnant.
Good Sunday school teachers.
Cooking, cleaning.
That we call upon women to serve in diverse capacities to advance the gospel in their homes, local churches, communities, the marketplace, and within our denomination. Didn't quite mention as pastors, mind you.
No.
Just to further the gospel. We call upon older women to invest in younger women for the sake of developing into godly followers of Christ. And we call upon Southern Baptists to encourage, cultivate, and celebrate the diverse gifts, callings, and contributions of women in biblically appropriate ways. In 2018, the church had to affirm that they need to celebrate women. On abuse, this is one of my favorites. They resolved to condemn all forms of abuse and repudiate with a unified voice all abusive behavior as unquestionably sinful under the just condemnation of our holy God, and be it further. In 2018, they had to unquestionably reject abuse because beforehand, it wasn't unquestionably rejected. There have been pastors who have claimed that you should not get divorced even in the midst of abuse. I had a pastor who said that you should get separated if you're being abused by your husband, but not divorced, because God hates divorce. They
fucking thing.
They acknowledge that spousal abuse dishonors the marriage covenant. No shit. We needed a resolution for that. By the way, these are non-binding resolutions, just to be clear. They strongly urge abuse victims to contact civil authorities, separate from their abusers, seek protection, care, and support from fellow Christians and civil authorities. No mention of divorce. They extend compassion and support to all persons encountering the injustices of abuse. Be careful to remind the abused of such injustices undeserved and not as a result of personal guilt or fault. Why? Because typically, these churches blame the victims. They call upon persons perpetrating and enabling abuse to repent and to confess their sins to Jesus Christ. And they implore all persons to act decisively on matters of abuse. And then they encourage leaders to speak against the sin on all forms of abuse. That one was boring. The curse of Ham, which is a justification of racism, by the way. There's this guy named Ham, and I can't remember. Allegedly, in the Bible, he was the descendants of Ham were marked with dark skin, and they were to be relegated to a subordinated status. So Southern Baptists took that as black people or brown people. In 2018, they have to pass a resolution saying that their public renunciation of racism in all its forms includes the disavowal of the curse of Ham. So black people aren't cursed. Had to do that in 2018. That we not be satisfied in our hearts with embracing any doctrinal belief that contradicts human dignity expressed in the creation account, and beg the Almighty to purge all remaining dross of this false teaching from our hearts to the glory of God, but we will still reject gays. Oh, sorry, that wasn't in there. I just added that. They will remain vigilant to bring healing and restoration to individuals that are involved. They renew their commitment to teach the full equality, dignity, and worth of all people from the Scriptures as it would be appropriate to do so. As it would be appropriate to do so, meaning the Bible says being gay is bad, so we will not let you be gay. Full dignity of human beings. We affirm the full dignity of every unborn child and denounce every act of abortion. So we're still hanging on to the dignity of human life from... Oh, I love this one. Christ-like communication and the use of social media. This one's fantastic. Commit to maintaining brotherly and sisterly love by resolving our dignity or our differences in a biblical manner. We resolve that we will guard our tongues using caution and wisdom in our media and social media and refrain from our remarks that tear down others in the image of God. Like this, really, like this is what they waste their time on?
Yep.
Like we need to tell our people are stupid, so we need to tell our people how to do Facebook. Because God cares so much about everything that you fucking do that we need to come on and tell you how to use Facebook. We need to tell you not to be a dick during Facebook, like on Facebook. I don't understand it. I don't understand the need to like get so much in like people's lives. I just don't get it. So anyway, those were some of the fun things that came out of the Southern Baptist Convention. In 2018, the Southern Baptist Convention has made a non-binding resolution saying that all races are equal and that women are good and we shouldn't be assholes. Up next, our featured atheist today is Annalisa. And Annalisa's story is phenomenal. It was an absolute pleasure to interview her, and so you will totally enjoy what she has to say. Our featured atheist for the week is Annalisa, and she joins us from I don't know where yet. We're going to find out in just a second. So Annalisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with where in the country do you hail from, and how long have you been an atheist?
So I am from El Paso, Texas. I currently live in Dallas, and I've been an atheist for about 5 years or so.
Dallas is a great area.
It is really great. I love it. I don't anything, so
my mom's friends lived in Plano, and so we went and visited there quite a bit. And I believe, is that close to Dallas? Is that near there? Okay,
20-minute.
Okay, cool.
As long as there's no traffic.
Yeah, and then we went to a Dallas Cowboys game once because it's my brother's favorite football team. So that was fun. So 5 years. That's kind of about how long I've been in that boat.
Yeah.
So what was your religious flavor before you arrived at your belief system now?
So I grew up in a non-denominational church, but it was part of the Evangelical Free Church of America.
Okay.
So it was a really kind of evangelical Christian, basic, what you kind of think of as evangelical Christian now. So
tell me a little bit about your religious experience. What was your relationship with God like? What was your relationship with religion like? Things like that.
So I was born and raised in the church. Some of my almost earliest memories I can think of are going to church. We went every Sunday. We also did youth group, every Wednesday, whenever that was, all the way up through high school. I fully believed it. I intended that was just going to be my religion for life. And even not just Christianity, but really that flavor of Christianity where, this evangelical type of Christian, I was kind of a snob about it, where, Catholics, they're not my kind of Christian. So I think that's kind of common among different denominations. But we were, I lived and breathed it. I was gonna, marry a Christian, live my whole life in church. And, that's kind of what we expected. My mom was the person who really kind of pushed, that, going to church every Sunday, doing this, a lot of our, summer vacations, or, camps were based around religion. So it was a big part of our lives growing up.
So what happened to make you start to doubt that? Because that obviously was, if you were going to marry a Christian, I can totally relate to that. I mean, I was in it. I mean, did my undergrad in it. I mean, I was a pastor, I lived and breathed this stuff. So what happened to make you start to question all that?
Well, first I went to college. So I think when I left El Paso and left kind of my home church, I'd gone to the same church my whole life. I didn't really find another church that was, quote unquote, right for me. I went to one that was in that same kind of denomination, and since it wasn't mine, it just didn't feel exactly right. And this second church happened to be a little more conservative and a little more strict than maybe mine was. So, I just was like, I'm just not going to go to church. So that kind of started, just maybe less caring about it. I still believed, I still had all those, prayed, when I could. And, when things are going bad, especially like, oh, let's throw some prayers out there. I would say the real kind of change when things started degrading. I remember listening to a podcast about hell, and I was like, I just couldn't believe in hell anymore. I remember thinking how it's just the most cruel thing. And if there really is, whoops, sorry, I think I unplugged there for a second. I was thinking that hell's just the most cruel thing. And if that really is where people spend eternity, it just became one of those things like, you know what, I can't believe in hell anymore. So I kind of stopped believing in hell. And I was like, okay, this is a much better way to be Christian. And then, you got to thinking about other stuff like the whole Adam and Eve thing. Of course, as a college educated person who really has near and dear science beliefs in my heart, I couldn't really believe that, I had those two separate beliefs of, oh yeah, I believe in evolution and Adam and Eve also existed, but I never really reconciled the two. And then when I guess I decided to reconcile them, it was like, well, this is so stupid. Of course, Adam and Eve can't be real. And then if they can't be real, then obviously, what did Jesus come here to save us from? And that just kind of tumbled into this, well, I don't believe the Christian religion anymore, but I still believe in God. So, I was like one of those annoying spiritual people, like, oh, I'm spiritual. And then after a while, it just was like, but why? Like, why would I believe in God? It just started to make no sense. And I do remember watching some like science videos, like of Neil deGrasse Tyson. And one of the videos that they popped up as you might like this video. It was from the Atheist Experience. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I started like watching those videos. And then I realized my belief system was atheist, even though there's still, so much stigma around that word is like, oh no, I'm not an atheist. No, I'm still spiritual, or I'm agnostic, but no, not an atheist. And just kind of when I started listening to, some of those podcasts, I was like, no, this is right. I believe this. I don't, all this makes sense. And then after a while, everything just kind of crumbled. And I was like, oh, nope, I don't believe any of it anymore. So
what was it about the doctrine of hell? I mean, had you met people who weren't religious and then it just didn't kind of make sense that a loving God would send them to hell? What was it about that really started to make you question?
It was thinking of like, these indigenous tribes in like Africa. For example.
Yeah.
The ones that are just, their lives they don't have water. They don't have food. They're, just those poor children you see with the protruding bellies. And it's like, well, if someone doesn't go preach to them, then they're going to hell. And that just was like, and not that it was a fairness thing, but it was like, that just doesn't make sense. Why would, you be punished for something you never even knew in the first place? And then why is like that already not a hell for you? So, after that, I was just like, there's no way that person's going to hell to suffer for eternity. After kind of living that life and just, having those without even having an option, I guess. So that kind of really pulled the trigger for me. I was like, nah, hell's gone. So I like to say that I cherry picked my way out of it. So I had.
It's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. And then I started throwing them out. So
is your family still religious?
So my mom is. My dad never went with us. I don't really know his religious beliefs. I think he's one of those spiritual people who believes in God, but he's never participated in religion. He came to church with us like Easter, a few times when we were maybe in the play. But I would call him non-religious. But my mom still, shares all those annoying Facebook posts about, pray for this person and
yes,
this science person believes in God, like those kinds of things are like, okay, Mom, that's a lie. But she still does. I have two sisters. we've all come to the same conclusion, although we all came to it at different times.
So are you, does your mom know you're an atheist?
We don't talk about it. But I don't know, honestly. I think she has a suspicions. I know she knows that one of my sisters is definitely not, because they've gotten in Facebook fights about it.
Oh, wow.
And so she might have, made the connection like, oh, I guess they don't believe anymore. But we've never had the discussion where I've sat down and said, hey, Mom, I don't believe this anymore. But
do you think that would be a big deal for her? Would that be a crushing blow, or is it something she would roll with?
My mom's great in that way that she's not really pressured us to do anything that we really don't want to do. I think I worry that she would feel like a failure because like her sister's very religious and my cousins on that side are still very religious. And I think that's kind of viewed as this success of like raising my children successfully, maybe in her mind. And I don't know if she feels like, oh, well, I messed up somewhere because none of my kids are religious anymore. So I don't know exactly. I would hope not, but I could see that being maybe her feeling about it. So.
Yeah. So Jesus was so much a part of your life when you were younger and before you went to college, and you were going to have that, perfect, the perfect Christian, whatever that life would be. How do you feel now that you're not a Christian? Do you ever feel like you were left behind, or that you were kind of stunted in your maturity? I mean, how have you felt with that?
I do think I was raised naive. So I think about, the way I thought of the world when I was in high school, and it's, very naive. That's, I think, the perfect word. I wish I didn't have as much of a sheltered upbringing, because I like this person a lot better. And I wish I would have found this person earlier in my 20s instead of kind of later in my 20s. So I feel, I wouldn't say left behind, but I'm like bummed on that approach that I didn't, get there a little sooner. But no, I don't feel left behind. I think, I remember being like in elementary school, middle school, even up to high school, and feeling like nobody was religious and like we're the only weird family who does, the pray at the pole and all that stuff. But now that I'm older, I realize, oh no, everyone's religious.
Yeah.
Posting stuff about it. And so, I felt like an outsider back then. And now I'm like, oh, and I'm an outsider now. So, I would say I didn't feel left behind in any way. But I like me better as an atheist than as a Christian.
How have you, so this person that you are now that you wish you would have found then, tell me about the person that you are now. What is it that you really like, that you love about yourself now?
I'm not fooled easily. I would say I take ownership of my life, where before, there's always that, well, God will just take care of you. And whatever's happening, it's for a reason, that you have to sort of justify the things that are happening in your life. And now, if you want to change something, you don't have this, well, things will get better because I've been praying about it. No, you have to go out and do stuff about it. So I wish I didn't have kind of that, well, things happen for a reason. My life's basically already planned out for me. So I make decisions, but it's going to happen in the way that's quote unquote God's will. And now I'm like, well, there's no predetermined end. It's just what it is, you make it. So, I think to me, that's what I missed, I think, out of my early 20s that, I wish I would have had, I guess.
Yeah. Are you married?
Yes.
And how long have you been married?
Married for 7 years.
Wow. So you were a Christian when you got married?
Yes.
And is he a Christian as well?
Yes.
So he's still a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And how is that going?
We don't talk about it a lot. It's something I feel incredibly guilty about. When we agreed to this marriage, we were on the same page, and I feel guilty. Like I didn't lie to him, but it feels like I sold him a wrong bill of goods. So I wouldn't say it's like a big issue, but it's one of the many. So it's not something that is a non-issue, but it's not like, oh, the biggest issue of our marriage or anything.
So does he go to church then? Is he involved?
No. So I think the last time we went to church was right before we were about to get married, because he wanted to get married in a church. So we had to kind of impress the pastor and, figure out, what the rules were to get married in their church. But that was never something that was a part of our relationship. It was just kind of the expectation that, oh, well, we both believe these things. So
do you guys have kids?
No kids.
And is that in the future for both of you?
Probably.
Yeah.
That's kind of for me, it's a touchy subject right now too, because I think I grew up more religious than he did. So he's a little washy-washy about he wants them to learn, but I don't think he wants to be religious about it and going every Sunday type of way. But I struggle with that, because I don't want to teach them at all that it's anything right. I want to teach them that here is what people believe. And I think it's important to understand it, but to teach it as this is the truth. I'm real bothered by that. So
yeah, so that's something that kind of keeps you on the fence about having kids because of how you would raise them.
Yeah, definitely.
When people ask you where you get your morality from, because everybody's always like, well, how can you be a good person with an atheist? Why don't you just go murder and rape everybody?
Yes,
which is just
exactly.
the stupidest statement in the world for anybody that doesn't believe in God. What is your moral paradigm? I mean, how have you rebuilt that your worldview from a Christian worldview to now a more secular worldview?
Well, one, I actually never been asked that question, luckily. But I remember being a Christian and being super snobby and being like, oh, that's wrong because this is how you're supposed to do it. So I feel like when you have these rules and if people aren't following the rules, you get to be like the dictator of you're doing it wrong because these are the rules. So I think morally speaking, I'm better because you have to use your own empathy. And, you can get into a big, long discussion of secular morality versus Christian morality. And of course I lean on the side of secular morality that as an evolving species, we are going to evolve with our morals as well. And that's obvious, just in the development of our country. So, if people really were to ask me, we had to get in a discussion, I think I would go along those parallels of, well, slavery is okay in the Bible. Is it okay? Well, why not? And so, but I don't have any qualms at all about, morality, or if someone didn't tell me this is good, then I wouldn't know. I think people figured it out. I take it back. I guess I have had people, not ask me specifically, where do you get your moral compass from? But have said, well, how are people supposed to know? And, this one person had mentioned that he thought the 10 Commandments, having to tell people it's wrong to kill, that people had to be told that because they didn't know otherwise. And whenever I heard that, I was like, okay, if that's really, you have to be told that this is wrong. That whole kind of argument fell for me. But
yeah, my moral compass comes I'm afraid of going to jail, or prison, because I wouldn't do well in that situation. Right. So that's a big, it's a big moral.
I think I'd be very good in prison, actually.
Do you?
I would totally run that prison. They wouldn't even.
I wouldn't.
I don't want to go to prison.
I'd be somebody's girlfriend.
Yeah,
I'd totally be somebody's girlfriend if I was in prison. I know I would be. It'd be terrible. It'd be the worst thing ever.
So you bring up a good point though, that you say well, if that saying that everyone says, well, why don't you just go rape and kill everybody? I'm free to make those choices, but I'm not free from the consequences of societal.
Right.
So there's still a society that we decide what's right and wrong as a whole. And I still follow those rules. One, yeah, sure. I don't really want to go to jail, although I would probably run it pretty well. But there's still, consequences of, these decisions. And so
Right. And even biblical morality is not fixed. I mean, it used to be immoral to be divorced 50 years ago, and now the church's divorce rate is just the same.
Exactly.
In the Mormon church, they thought African Americans were less than until the mid 60s, and then all of a sudden, what do you know? The civil rights movement also was about the same time of a revelation from God, and so these people that tout this superior morality are just full of shit.
I agree.
In a lot of ways. So, kind of where you're at now, where as you look into your future, what are you doing? I mean, where are you going career wise, life wise? What's going on?
So I have a MBA and undergrad in finance. So I work at Texas Instruments. I've been there about 5 years. That's what brought me to Dallas. So I love my job. I love, the company. It's great. I don't know if I'm wildly ambitious that I tend to go for CEO or CFO. I don't think my career path. But I'm pretty happy with the company. So I think I'll, stick that out for a while. The next the life path is, that's when I go back and forth on, cause I'm 33, and if we want to have kids, you got to kind of get to it, as much as I feel in my mind, I'm still 25, those ovaries are saying, girl, they're not. So that's a lot of pressure right now to figure out are we going to do that or not? So, I don't know. I really do feel like, in that regard, I'm kind of at a fork in the road. So
are kids something that you want?
I go back and forth, but at the end, we'll probably have kids.
I get that. We go back and forth too. So I can understand, especially at this stage in life, you're kind of like, I don't know what that's like. So what is it like being an atheist in Texas? God and country.
Yeah, I went to college in New Mexico, and I didn't, you heard about the Bible Belt, but you didn't really get it until you lived here. And even Dallas, as a city is pretty liberal. But the influence of Texas is still just all around. When I first started my job, they have this thing where you're supposed to go around and tell them something you do outside of work that you do every day, no matter what. And this is how you keep a work-life balance. And so many people were talking about how every night before bed, I read 8 chapters of the Bible, or at lunchtime. And so many people had these Bible references. I was like, what is going on? Why are people admitting this? This is the weirdest thing. And at this point, I hadn't even fully committed to atheism. I was even thinking it was weird as a Christian. But it's bonkers. I have a sister who lives in Houston, and I drive down to visit her pretty regularly, and billboards galore of you're going to hell. Here's, where are you going to pick, heaven or hell? There's eternities forever. Baby's heartbeats at, 8 seconds, don't abort it. So it's very conservative. And a lot of that is tied to kind of a religious Christian, base.
So what was your answer when they asked you what you do outside of work?
I was like, I go for a run every day. It's a lie, but I have my secret one that I keep to myself, which is I want to try all the different kinds of drugs before I have kids.
Nice.
At work, that's work appropriate.
Right. Right. So which ones have you tried?
The basics.
Okay.
Cocaine, weed, Molly. I have mushrooms that I want to try next.
That's on my list. So that is I've never tried anything other than weed. Because I was terrified that I was either going to get paranoid and want to do something outrageous. I was just so afraid of not being in control. But I also really want to try mushrooms just to see what that's like. Yeah.
I also want to try acid. That one's the one that scares me a little more. But you only live once, right?
That's so true.
So. Yeah.
Those are such great goals to aspire to.
I mean, you got to have goals. So.
Oh, man. Do you have any atheist friends? Do you have an atheist community, people that you can connect to on a secular level?
Not officially. A lot of my friends are well, we don't have like a religious type of relationship. So it rarely comes up. Anytime someone mentions anything religious, before I used to say like, oh, well, I'm non-religious, but now I straight up say, oh, I'm atheist. So I'll have my opinion about stuff. So I don't feel like I'm missing that per se. And so I'm very vocal about it to my friends, and they're not, shunning me in a sense. So I don't feel that I'm not able to express that or I'm missing out on that. But no, not officially. I mean, I know here Dallas has the Satanic Temple. I'm like one of their Facebook group members, so I see kind of stuff that's happening. And I think Dallas also has like what is it called? I mean, there's another atheist group that Dallas has like a chapter of, but I'm not members of those or anything. So
yeah, it's the atheist community is the Satanic Temple people are awesome. We met somebody from the Satanic Temple in Los Angeles, interviewed her a little while back, and she's just fantastic. Like Allie was probably the coolest person ever.
I love what they're doing. Like I love how they sue people.
Yeah.
Like they're brilliant people.
Yeah, and the atheist, we've been to a couple of atheist meetups that were just kind of challenging for us because Tammy and I we're fun people who like to drink and make jokes and do things like that, and some of the atheist groups we've attended have just been very serious and droll and not it's been very like
or they're like, we have to take down the Christians,
right? And I just so let's talk about that for a second. I'm glad you mentioned that. How do you feel about religious people now?
I feel sad for them, honestly. I'm like, oh, you still believe that? But besides that, I mean, I don't mind that they have those beliefs. I quietly keep my beliefs to myself whenever they're not the person you want to talk about.
Is there, when you first left your faith, did you have any anger towards religion and towards the people and so how did you, because you don't seem like you're, angry very much anymore. So how did you deal with that anger?
I think it was I kind of think that's a normal process. Whenever people first come out of it, I think they feel angry for me, I felt angry that I was tricked. And I felt that like, oh, I can't believe you told me this when I was a child and you made me believe this. So, and my life, you have these fantasies of what your life could have been if you had these views maybe younger. And so I think you just kind of deal with it for a couple years. I think that's what I did. I was, every time I still roll my eyes whenever I see a lot of religious stuff and it's like, oh, okay. So I think I rolled my eyes a lot and kind of interceded. But eventually it just kind of became less of like anger and more of just, I think, sadness is the right word with like, I feel I'm sad for those people where, they're probably sad for me too, but, they still have these strong beliefs, and I do think it takes your life in a way that maybe wouldn't if you had different beliefs. So, but yeah, I've gotten over the anger part. Now I'm just happy to be on this side and not on that side.
Yeah. So you are a member of our Yappers Facebook group. Do you do it? Have you? I'm trying to think if I've seen any. Have you made any posts on there?
No, I'm kind of a lurker.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. What is it? Is there anything about that you, because we got some people that are really active, and then we've got other people who just kind of hang out in the background. What do you get out of being there? I'm just curious.
For me, it's nice to see, when you're not exposed to other people vocally expressing their religious beliefs, you kind of feel like you're the only one. So it's nice to have that group that you just see other people are feeling the same way or they get the same jokes as you.
Right.
And so I think it's just a nice little, and you get like 1 or 2 notifications a day, and it's like, I like to see, what they're posting about. And it's also nice to see people's journeys, and sometimes they're heartbreaking and sometimes they're, more hopeful. So it's still good to see kind of that spectrum and understand people are coming around.
Yeah. We have a lot of fun on there. So we usually end these interviews with a little segment called "We Might Not Be Screwed After All," because we try as best we can. At least I try as best I can to see the world a little bit more from a hopeful perspective. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't really be motivated to get up and get out of bed in the morning. So when you think about the state of the world today, or when you think about where you are just in life, what gives you hope? Why might we not be screwed after all?
I think what I like to see, those Pew Research studies when they say, America's becoming less religious. You see that those nuns, the NONES nuns, it keeps growing, and it's really hard and really easy to get wrapped up into like the way our country is and how, at least in my opinion, how strong a hold religion has on government. So I'm hopeful because every time I see those nuns grow, you kind of realize, those are people who are going to be running our country one day. And I kind of think, the loudest voices are those people at the fringe. And so they're still screaming and they're still kind of winning. But I also kind of think they're screaming because they're getting pushed out. And so I'm hopeful that, as my life continues, we'll see kind of more acceptance of non-religion, and especially in like a politics. We're seeing people who are openly atheist in sports. I think there's a couple politicians who are openly atheist. So like, I look forward to seeing, those kinds of changes, in our country, and then how that kind of will filter around through like rules and just expectations and societal norms. So
I love it. Love it. Sounds great. Well, Annalisa, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on the show. We really appreciate you, your candor, and just your willingness to come on and share your life with everyone who listens.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hope you enjoyed that interview with Annalisa. I just had a great time talking to her. It was so funny when we first started chatting. She had like downed, I think, 1 or 2 Miller Lights, and we just kept rolling with it. And it was a good time. I think I had a couple of beers too, but I just appreciated her candor, appreciated everything she had to say. Every one of these interviews is incredible. Like every time I get to talk to you, it's phenomenal. I just love talking to you. If you want to be a featured atheist, youratheistpastor.org/interview. youratheistpastor.org/interview. We will not be doing any interviews during the month of July. We'll be playing interviews, but we're not going to be actually conducting any interviews in the month of July. So if you're interested in being a featured atheist, when you go to youratheistpastor.org/interview, you will fill out a form. That form will come to me. I will have your email address, and then I will email you in about mid-July when registration for our August interviews opens. Because I've done a lot of interviews so far. We've got interviews booked all the way out through September already. And I'm going to take a break in July from interviewing. But we will start back up again August. That first week of August, we're going to kick right back off and do a shitload of interviews again, because talking to you is probably my favorite thing about how this is working out. Because everybody's story is different, but everybody's story is the same. Like it's so similar. There are these themes that start to run through the stories, and if you're not picking up on them yet, you will. Because as much as we're different, we have a common story. And that story, many of us, whether you're religious or not, we all, human beings, we need that love, belonging, and connection somehow. Whether that love, belonging, and connection comes from the show, whether it comes apart from this show, whether you're a member of the Yappers group, which is one of these days going to outgrow how many people actually like our page on Facebook. So if you want to communicate with us, there's 2 primary ways to do it. Instagram and the Yappers group. We're crazy active on the Yappers group. I mean, that page blows up every week, and I love it. I love it. People ask questions. They post memes. There's not that many memes. There's a lot of questions.
Yeah, lots of questions.
Tons of questions and stories and people introducing themselves, and it's phenomenal. So if you're looking, we're never going to. I shouldn't say never, but it's unlikely that one of these days we're not trying to replicate a church, so we're not going to build a building and have people come to it and like make a pilgrimage to some kind of building or whatever. We want to connect with you where you are. Many of you might be in the middle of the Bible Belt. You might be at the buckle of the Bible Belt. Annalisa said she's at she's on the buckle of the Bible Belt in Texas, and not everybody's going to move to California. Not everybody's going to move to someplace liberal. So you're stuck with being in that conservative environment and trying to make the best you can and do the best you can out of where you are. And we want to be there for you. And one of the best ways to get connected with that is to join. If you want to really kind of take your take what you're doing to the next level, then that's how you would do it. So if you have trouble finding the Yappers group, many people have contacted me on Facebook or just email me, youratheistpastor@gmail.org or gmail.com, or you can email Tammy at youratheistpastor.org, and we'll make sure that you get added on. We'll make sure that you get the link to the group, because sometimes it's hard to find, I guess. Also, if you're a listener on Google Play, welcome back. We dropped off the face of the earth on Google Play a while back because we changed hosting websites, and
you didn't realize it.
And I didn't realize that our RSS feed wasn't updated on Google Play. So we're back. We should be on some new places. We're on TuneIn now. We're moving across other platforms. Hopefully going to be back on Spotify in the next couple of weeks. So glad you're there. If you find value in this show, please consider donating to our Patreon page. There's a new perk that's coming to Patreon soon. Should we tell them what it is?
Yes.
Okay, we'll tell them what it is. Now, if you're unfamiliar with our Patreon structure and how things work, if you donate $2, you get access to all the past Instagram Live audio, and you also get access to our monthly Patreon show, which I'll be recording this week. The 5 things that they do not tell you before you become an atheist. So I've been working on this for a long time, and it's finally starting to come together. So I'm excited to record that. So you get access to that. For $5, you're going to get something, $5 and up, you're going to get something more special. I'm getting into the video business, and we are going to be uploading videos to YouTube. We finally were able to run the sound into the camera so I can edit and cut the video and make things work. So we are going to be uploading video to YouTube. Here's how that's going to work. If you're a $5 and up subscriber, you will be able to watch the video probably the Wednesday after the episode comes out. I'm giving myself some time here to edit this shit because I'm new at video stuff, so I have no idea what I'm doing. So the first few videos are probably going to be really shitty, but there's been demand to watch us. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, you will get access to the video the Wednesday after it airs. If you're a patient person and you want to wait, a month later, it's going to be made public. So, for example, this episode is going to be made available to $5 and up Patreon subscribers on Wednesday, June 20th, is when this show will be available, hopefully, to watch, or before. If you want to wait until July 20th, you'll be able to watch it on the YouTube channel. So, there's another thing we want to do. For those of you, there's been big demand in it. I've gone back and forth on whether I just want to publish everything on YouTube to try to get more of a following and more people listening, or if I want to do that as things for people who are subscribing. And I think I want to do it for people who are subscribing because it's valuable. So $2 you'll get the audio. $5 and up you will get the video early. But if you're patient and you don't have $5 to spend, then just wait a month and you'll get to see it then. And as always, I've received emails from you. Some of you have said you feel bad because you can't donate. Please don't feel bad that you can't donate to the show, because the last thing I ever want the show to be is a burden to anyone. This is not a burden to me. This is not a burden to Tammy. We look forward to doing this every week. I love doing this every week, and I would never want you to feel burdened to be here. So the best way you can support the show is to listen to the show. The second best way you can support the show is to review the show on whatever podcast platform you listen to this. So if you don't have $5 to give because you stress out when you walk into Chipotle and they ask you if you want guacamole because guacamole costs extra, then don't give. But give us an appropriate amount of stars
instead of $5,
5 stars. That was great.
Right?
Love that.
I'm clever.
Also, the t-shirts will be available again this week. So we sold some the first time, and we're going to make some adjustments to those. We're going to have some more in your face t-shirts, then we're going to have some more subtle t-shirts.
I'm so excited to get my t-shirts.
So I know ours are in the mail. We should get them next week. By the time this airs, by the time the YouTube video airs, we should have our shirts in hand.
I also told Luke that for the ladies out there that we'd like some tank tops.
Yes, and that is we're in process. So when I first started this, I liked audio. I'm like the audio stuff. I am not a huge fan of video, or I don't know anything about video, and I'm not really a t-shirt designer. So that's because that's what we're doing. We're trying. One of these days, I'll be able to afford someone to edit my videos, and one of these days, I'll be able to afford someone to design my shirts. Until then, you get what I come up with. But anyway, we've taken up enough of your time for this week. Thank you all so much thank you so much for listening, for being here, for being part of the show. I just love you so much. In fact, I love you more than you could possibly know, because I do not need to know you to love you. And we will talk to you next week.
Keep recording. You can add this at the end if you want.
Oh, yeah.
So I saw a story. I don't know if it's like real or not, but I actually think it is. I actually don't think it's the first time I've seen it. There are people that have started their own business. That business is atheists collecting payment for watching people's dogs and cats after the rapture happens. Babe, we're going to be fucking rich. We need to set up our website ASAP.
Hold, please.
Look it up.
Hold, please. I need to check this out.
Pet sitting, atheist pet sitting after rapture.
Pet sitting after the rapture. It pops up in a search. Hang on.
Isn't that awesome?
After the rapture, petcare.com.
These people are just raking it in.
Gosh.
And I thought, that's our next business venture.
After the rapture, petcare.com. How is this not? How can they do this legally? Dear fellow Christian, as the Apostle Paul describes in Thessalonians, as quoted above, at some point in the future, Jesus will come in the air, catch up the church from earth, and then return to heaven with the church. This is known as the rapture, and it will be glorious. But what of our pets? Who will take care of our pets? I'm Sharon, and I'd like to help with that answer. First, let me tell you a story. Oh my gosh. This is amazing.
I know you would love that.
This is amazing. This is what happens to all our pets registered with us immediately after the rapture.
Okay, let me hear it.
Our non-Christian administrators will activate our rescue plan. Volunteers will be alerted immediately by email and telephone that they have been activated. Pets will be assigned to our volunteer pet caretakers based upon location and other factors. Our administrators and volunteer pet caretakers will do whatever it takes to find and rescue your pets. If your pet has a location chip, they'll use that, or they'll go to every location you've registered with us. If your pets are not in one of those locations, they'll search for your cars as well and stay in contact with local pet shelters. If they are unable to reach a volunteer caretaker in your area for whatever reason, our administrators will communicate with local animal organizations like the Humane Society to advocate for your pets. Our administrators will stay in touch with our volunteer pet care. Oh, this is amazing.
So we all need to go out there and get hired by these companies.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a Christian organization that is hiring atheists.
I love it.
But I mean, why not start an atheist business?
No, we need to.
See, we're not all that worthless. We can take care of people's pets after all y'all get sucked up into heaven.
Many are angry Christians who think we're ripping off Christians for $10. Or think more about it. This is
prepayment, of course.
Who are these pet caretakers, and how do I know they'll take good care of my pets? Most pet caretakers fit this description. They are atheist or other non-Christian religions. They love animals enough to register with us, even though they do not believe that there will be a rapture or are agnostic about it. They are volunteers, so they are not signing up simply to make a quick buck. In fact,
we can totally start a paying one.
Yeah.
OMG, right?
It's an amazing business venture.
I
love that
you
idea.
Would love that. Anywho,
Wow.
Bonus feature on this week's podcast.
Yeah, we'll add that on. Because I still don't know what I'm going to do with the YouTube video. I'm still not trying to figure out how that's going to work. So,